probably won't remember, in 2017 I reviewed Snoh Aalegra's debut album Feels. If you've been subscribed to me that long, then I applaud you, but I thought it was a pretty damn good R&B album from the Swedish singer-songwriter. If I'm being honest though, I don't really listen to it that much these days, aside from the track You Got Me, which is a fantastic track, honestly. But the album was littered with a couple of guest features that were really out of place, like Logic and J. Cole. Their features were actually fine, they were serviceable, but they just didn't fit the flow of the album that I think ended up dragging the whole thing down, and the replay value wasn't quite as strong as I initially had thought it was. But either way, I still think she makes some pretty great songs, and I was interested to see what she'd do on her follow-up album, Ugh, Those Feels Again, which is a pretty clever album since the debut album was called Feels, ha ha ha. But if anything, it only really highlights how little progression there has been in the lyrical content on this one. Feels, Those Feels Again, you can guess what this album is going to be about. Now, however, the most impressive thing about this one this time around though is the production. Oof, it is smooth. These tracks are incredibly divine. They are just divine. The production across this thing is completely stellar. I think whoever handled it did a fantastic job, and Snoh's vocals on this thing are to die for. I could definitely see someone coming through and calling this a pretty boring listen, but I think if you just sit down with it and just listen to how crisp everything is, you quickly appreciate just the clean sound this whole thing has. And again, she sells these tracks with fantastic vocal performances, particularly on I Want You Around, which to me is by far the best track here, but even this track being the best one highlights an issue that is pretty much the biggest problem that the entire album has. And that to me is just the basic surface level observations of relationships and feelings that you get through breakup and the feelings that you get during relationships. It's all just very, very simple and straight to the point. I mean, it is a pretty laid back, chill album. I guess that is the point. You know, you don't need the most artistic lyrics for an album like this, I suppose, but it does get pretty redundant listening to her kind of, you know, list off really, really straightforward observations that you would see on like a viral Twitter post. Honestly, it's just the lowest common denominator type stuff. Love Like That definitely has a wide appeal, but like I say, just these lyrics are just not really that interesting. You can make this interesting. R&B artists in the past have put their own spin on these song topics and added their own flair to them. You got someone like Frank Ocean, you got people like Anderson .Paak. They're just the most recent examples you can think of as well. There's way more than that, but that's kind of the thing. When you've heard it done better and the music can sound equally as good, it just kind of drags an album like this down. Speaking of Frank Ocean though, I do think some of the melodies she comes through with the vocals actually remind me quite a bit of like Channel Orange era Frank Ocean, which I know is an album that people have kind of like soured on over time, but I think Frank's singing on that thing was absolutely stellar. So that's a comparison that I hold highly. Honestly, that's not something to snuff at here. There's certainly a high relatability factor for an album like this. Like this could certainly hit you in the right mood or the right setting, or if you've just experienced some kind of like relationship breakdown or something like that, then I could definitely see this album being like a big contender for like a year-end list candidate. Actually, Find Someone Like You just has such a soulful touch to it that can definitely hit the heartstrings with the way she's singing and the way the music just sounds so gorgeous. But you know, these are topics that have been done so many times in other genres as well, and done much better, so I can't really praise it too highly, unfortunately. But I still will go with 6.5 out of 10. This is good. Definitely think it's worth your time. And yeah, check this out. I think she's a bit of an underdog in the R&B world right now. Like it's not a genre that always gets like a huge amount of praise these days, especially in like the albums field. But I think Snoh Aalegra deserves to be part of that conversation of really good R&B artists around right now. Thank you for watching my review. If you have listened to this album, let me know what you think of it. Thank you for checking out what I have to say. Consider donating to Patreon if you could. That'd be great. Thank you. Goodbye. And subscribe. Have a good day. Goodbye.